Everybody, good to see you. Let me get the thing started here. Okay, let's see. All right. Oh, good to see you, Dustin. Hey, Dustin, you picked a good one tonight to be on. Let's see. Gina, Kathy, Kevin, Lisa. Good to see you again, Lisa. Good call today. Hey, Gina, I forgot to tell you on the phone earlier. Karen actually sat in on our commercial mastermind today. Yeah, she was engaged, asking questions, and you know.
She really liked it too. She told me about it.
Be right back. Okay. All right. Thanks, Dustin. Willie, good to see you. Hot diggity dog. Always good to see you. Rob, good to see you, buddy. Chad, good to see you. I saw Catherine. I looked up and I said, "Wait a second, that doesn't look like Catherine." So I see. I feel a nickname coming on. KU or something like that. We'll have to figure something out. Gilbert, good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you.
I've got everybody so far. There'll be others popping in. Hey, Liz. I don't know. Oh, you know what, guys? Mr. Genius over here, my sound was off. I'm sitting here blabbing away. I'm thinking,
oh, we can hear you. We
I
can totally hear you.
you.
Oh, well, that's okay. Nice shirt, Gare. We were complimenting you nonstop.
Okay, thanks. You know what? Have you ever listened? Has anybody ever listened to the podcast?
Yeah.
Listen to the theme music. You know, like the beginning, at the intro and the outro. It's my friend Christy Michael did that for me. She was a DJ. Her career was she was a disc jockey, and essentially retired now. Now she does fun stuff like work on political campaigns. So we have some interesting conversations hanging around the beach in the summertime. But in any case, she's the one that did that for me. That's her voice, and I'm not sure what she got the music from, but I'm grateful for it. Okay, let's see. Annetta, good call today. Julia, we got all kinds of great guests today. Julie, good to see you. Hopefully things are going well for out there in San Diego. Let's see, Kevin PF, Rob, Willie, go ahead and what I'm doing, Will, is I'm promoting everybody so you can then engage your camera. That way we can see you, or if you just want to do a still shot, that's okay too. Excuse me. So, hey Gil, have you spoken to or heard anything from Lou? Uh-oh. I think he meant to turn his sound on. He just accidentally turned himself off. So, okay, we're going to get started here in just a second, guys. We are live, we're recording.
Gary, have you heard from Benny?
We're speaking again this Thursday. Yep. He's
We need to move on this quick. It's going to go.
Yeah.
And the Dodge dealership closed today.
Wow.
I missed that one. Oh,
yeah.
Oh,
well, I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll give Benny a call again tomorrow. But we swapped messages, and he said, "Can we just do it on Thursday?" He has 8 restaurants, and his family collectively has over 200 restaurants, and he's back and forth like I go back and forth between here in Florida. He goes back and forth between here and Mexico. You know.
wow.
Yeah. So it's just the nature of people that are.
Did you send over the paperwork to him that I sent you?
Yeah, he's got everything. Yeah.
Good. All right. He's got to like that. I mean, it's a great deal, I think, but
oh, yeah.
I don't know restaurants.
I don't. I've never owned a restaurant, but
No,
of
you
my,
wouldn't. I did for a while. That's
Yeah.
horrible. Horrible
uh,
thing.
two of my best friends were restaurateurs, my neighbors, and it's a grueling life. Now with Benny, he's flying around at 60,000 feet. He's he's involved, but he's
Yeah.
not dealing with day-to-day operations in any one restaurant. So I've been to a couple of his restaurants, and they're really extremely well run. I mean, he's doing well. So
That's great. Great.
yep, he was actually
Okay.
on about this time last year. I had him on with Christine, who's his agent, one of my former agents and student, and interesting character. I forget, I was like May or June of last year. I had Benny on, you know. So yep.
I
Let me-
remember Benny. He's a good guy from
He
that
is.
meeting. Yeah.
He's a super guy, you know. Okay, a few more promotions. Melanie, Michael, good to see you guys. Okay, tonight, really what we're supposed to go over is resources. And I'm going to do some of that, but I'm also going to show you some other resources that we don't have on our website. We'll likely add them, but I want to first kick things off with a message in a you can call it a suggestion, but when I make a suggestion, the interpretation should be, I should really do this. Okay. All right. So first things first, has anybody looked at the stock market year to date since January 1, just to do a stat? So give me the stock market results year to date. So Gilbert, what did you see?
Down, 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 down.
Yep.
A lot.
So the Dow is down just a hair shy of 10%. And what happens when the stock market goes down 10%? What do we call that? It's a
Opportunity.
Opportunity. It's a correction.
It's a bear
I-
market.
I was thinking recession. I like that.
Well, here's what I'm getting to.
Better.
The
Now, the
bear
NASDAQ,
market.
who knows how far down the NASDAQ is? It's greater than 20%. And the S&P 500 is 13%. So now today I interviewed on a podcast a guy named Mark Yagi, and you're going to hear from him because he's actually going to teach a class for us. So he's an old friend of mine. We were in a mastermind group together for years called GoBundance. He's one of the original founders. He owns and runs three hedge funds, and he has his own training program on investing. He admittedly is not a real estate guy, although he's dabbling in real estate. He's been a stock investor since he was 12 years old. And he was, at one point, one of the top Wall Street guys. So in any case, he's going to teach a class for us. And so we were talking today on the podcast, and afterwards we talked about the economy and inflation. And I said, my belief is, based on my own numbers, inflation is not 8.5%. It's closer to 30%. And he agreed. He said, yeah, it's real inflation is between 25 and 30%. If you apply a weighting factor to each of the commodities that you and I buy on a regular basis, scaled, like, housing is up there to the top because it's the most expensive and we all need it. And shaving cream will be at the bottom because it's very inexpensive and we very infrequently buy it, maybe once every 3 months. And oddly enough, the less frequent, cheaper commodities are not only less expensive, but their inflation rate is only 2 to 3%. Whereas the things that cost us the most, fuel, housing, food, are all up dramatically, 35 to 50%, sometimes more. Okay. So in any case, some of us have been around long enough to recognize these factors. So in the history of my lifetime, since 1963, what generally happens when you have a stock market going down, inflation going up, and interest rates going up by 60% in 1 year? What does that normally tell you?
Depression, stagnation, recession, mess.
Yeah, right. Now
Opportunity.
Opportunity. The question is when's it going to actually kick in and kick us in the butt? And even the experts can't tell you. I mean, I wish I could, guys, but I'm not an expert. But I am a student and I'm an observer. And I'm telling you, this is my fifth cycle since I've been an adult. And the circumstances are always different. It's in the 1970s, remember, it was the gas crisis. Anybody remember your parents waiting in line to get gas in the 70s? Yep.
Aaron.
Yep. And in the late 70s, remember interest rates? went up to 18, 20, 21%. Okay. So in spite of the underlying circumstances, the results are always the same. The fundamentals never change, you know? So in any case, the whole point of all this is, you know, well, what do we do? So here, I'm going to give you two things that I think every real estate agent should be doing no matter what. And on our team, one of them is the booklet. Okay, and I probably preach that more than any other campaign. And the reason is it's easy to do. You don't have to spend any money doing it because you can send it to people as a link. You remember, save your document on Google Drive and get a link and send that link to people in a text, in an email, on a Facebook post, on a Facebook private message, on LinkedIn. There's a number of ways you can send the booklet to people, not just in the mail. So in any case, in the booklet, every month changes, right? You change out the sample properties, you put a brand new fresh article in there, you give them another tool or strategy, something like that. So we don't call it a newsletter because how many of you get emails every week? Someone's Bob's newsletter, right? Anybody get those? They're real estate agents. Yeah, my newsletter, you know. I would recommend not calling it that. I'd recommend calling it something that's meaningful or relevant, like subconsciously. That's why I call mine Profit Booster, because I know it doesn't matter what the market's doing, and Profit Booster doesn't pigeonhole me as a real estate agent. It's simply a source of information for people to increase profit. You know, I just happen to talk about real estate. That's my thing. So, by the way, Mark Yagi and me were a lot alike, except one thing is my preference is real estate, although I do invest in the stock market. His preference is at the stock market, all he does dabble in real estate. So we complement each other very well. And I think you're going to see that when he teaches. He may actually teach a couple classes because the guy's just very bright. He's also a super nice guy too. So in any case, but back to what I was saying. I would say if you only do two things, and especially if you do not like calling people, I would do the booklet and I would do the letter. The letter campaign is extremely complementary with the booklet. So let's just think about this for just a second here. We have the tool ReallyFlow, okay? And if you don't even have ReallyFlow, there's other tools you can get to arrive at contacts, you know, potential leads. I like to focus my energy on people that I've done some research on. I know precisely for a fact that people that have owned the property more than 25 years, if it's non-owner occupied, are more likely to be interested in selling, talking about selling. I also know that they probably depreciated it completely. They've also probably paid it off completely. So now they've got this asset sitting there that they can't take the write-off for depreciation anymore. They've likely paid it off, so there's no more interest deductions on their mortgage payments. And maybe they're in their 70s, maybe they're only in their 60s, but they're thinking, you know, I got to do something about this. And one of the things they might think of doing is owner financing. Okay. So, and I was reading about this the other day, and I'm thinking, ironically, that's exactly how I got started. I joined the local apartment association, and lo and behold, the guys I sat with, half of them were looking to retire, and one of them took me under his wings. And I know I just told you guys this, and I think it was whatever meetings last week, but I don't think it was the Monday Night Live class. But in any case, what I'm getting at is use your tools, and if you're on the team, you have ReallyFlow, to identify people you believe are already involved in real estate investing, and it's easy to determine because they're absentee owners, right? So let me just do a share screen. I'm going to do just a few examples, and then I'm going to move on to how this all ties together. I need to go. It's interesting seeing myself on Facebook. Where am I? And that's here we go. Okay. So for example, let's just do a test here. Let's see. So Bonetta, what's your zip code?
22015.
32015 or 220?
22015.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to look for this time long-term owner. It says 25 years or more. And I'm also going to look for, just for grins, let's do absentee owner, which is your investors. Now, I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to find out here real quick. Oop, let me eliminate other. Okay. And let's see what pops up, if anything. If not, we'll just adjust it. What I'm looking for are people that have owned the property more than 25 years and they don't live there. So most likely where Bonetta lives, it's not going to be a vacation home. It's going to be a, see, look at that, no leads found. So let's take that off, the absentee owner part, and let's focus on some multifamily. See if there's any multifamilies here owned more than 25 years. It might come up empty again, but that's okay. This is why we do this. Actually, we did get some hits. So Bonetta, you've got 56 multifamilies in your zip code that have been owned more than 25 years. So what I would recommend doing is two things. You can send the booklet in the mail to these folks, and that's not so bad idea, but it's going to cost you, a couple of bucks, right? So what you could do is use a letter. Now there's all kinds of letters on the ReFlow website, but what I want to do is show you the letter that actually outproduces all of them. Okay. And this is one I came up with years ago. We had one letter that was made for multifamily owners, typically bigger properties. Okay. And what I realize is the shorter I made it, this is a letter campaign. Okay. By the way, for those of you who are new, so Chad, this is our library of marketing campaigns. The booklets, they're alphabetical, by the way, top to bottom, left to right. The booklet just happens to be first alphabetically. And oddly enough, it's also first because it's one of the first things I have people do. And my hope and wish and prayer is everybody here will take this to heart. And if you haven't done one, or if you haven't completed it, go ahead and finish it and get that going on a regular basis. So those 56 people that we just found in lead pipes, I would start by sending them the booklet right off the bat, Now, I also know that the market needs listings desperately. These listings. Now we're doing pretty good on our team. Is we're doing well relative to averages. Okay, we're doing pretty good. But this letter campaign, what I was getting at a moment ago, is this letter used to be like long. I mean, 3 paragraphs long, all kinds of stuff in there. And the shorter we made it, the higher the response rate went up. So I'm going to pull up the letter so you can see it. And I'm going to give you a few pointers here. Number one is this stuff needs to come out. So it's a Word document. So the first thing I want you to do when you get this and download it is take off all this stuff up front. Okay. It doesn't belong there. I think Beverly did it for so people can identify where it came from, I guess. But any case, if you look at this and you remove all this stuff up here that doesn't belong there, above the salutation, Dear Clay, is completely blank. Okay, don't put any letterhead up there. I believe me, we've tested this, every which way but loose. So when you do this letter, do not use a letterhead. Flat out, just get rid of it. Dates, addresses, all that stuff, just cut it all out. Especially logos. It's going to be tempting to put in there your logo for your brand and possibly the EXP logo. I'm here to tell you from lots of testing, it works better without it. It's not necessary to have it. Okay. Down at the bottom, just so you see, is where I tell them who I am. Everyone's signed, even though these are all in Word and they're short merged and gone out individually. I've still signed them. Now, what I started doing after a while is I had an admin person and she had a digital signature stamper. So she stamped them all, but it was ink, so that nobody could tell. You could do a digital signature if you want to do that. That's probably okay. It's not the end of the world if you do. But there's other ways you can do this. But in any case, This is the first time they see that I'm in real estate. Okay, it's at the bottom. Now, why is that important? Why is it important? Well, number one, I do have to disclose, but do you think they're going to be interested in knowing who I am or do you think, let me put it this way, what do you think the chances are of them reading the paragraph if they see up top with the letterhead that I'm a real estate agent or broker? What's the percentage of time do you think they'll actually go down and read the content? It's low. We've flipped it. We've tested it. So we took out the letterhead. Then the first thing they see is their first name, Dear Clay, and lo and behold, then they might be interested in seeing who I am. Does that make sense, guys? We literally flipped the industry standard. Now, if you look at the letter, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this so it makes sense. When you're reading it, you'll only see the word I or I'm very, very few times. What you will see in here is the word you or your many, many more times. Okay. So, Dear Clay, I'm writing to you about your property located at 17 Elm Lane in Etna. All right. Now, right off the bat, you and yours are already used twice in the first sentence. So I've named them personally. Right off the bat, I've mentioned their property right in the first line. Now, if you own that property, would you be interested in reading what's next? Most likely, yes, because I've mentioned your name personally and I mentioned your property. In fact, guys, I will tell you, I got a letter like this is what happened. Nice and short and sweet, a little bit differently worded. But my first thought was, uh-oh, what's wrong with my property? I better find out it's one of the neighbors or something. That's what I thought. So it worked. In any case, I'm not suggesting you sell your property if you don't want to, okay? Now, there's a little bit of a psychology here. What did I actually just do in that sentence when I said, I'm not suggesting you sell your property if you don't want to?
You suggested that he sell his property with the embedded command.
Absolutely. Yep, 100%. And look, I use you and your 2 more times. So I've used you and your 4 times in the first 2 sentences, okay? And I did plant that seed, embedded command, sell your property. You notice I didn't say what your property's worth. I actually gave the command, sell your property, you know? Okay, then I said, however, inventory's tight right now. Is inventory tight right now? Yep.
Yes.
And I have clients like, and I actually name a real person. This is not made up. This is a real person, okay? So this should be somebody who's actually in your database, somebody you know and you know they're interested in buying, okay? Who want to buy a 4-unit building just like yours in your area, okay? So I just mentioned the type of property. I didn't say he wants to buy your, see, a lot of these letters make the mistake of saying, I want to buy your properties. Anybody seen those?
Mhm.
I get them. I want to buy your property. My first thought is, how do you know? You've never seen my property. So what I say is, buy a property just like yours in your area. And look how many more times I used the word you and your, 2 more times, right? That's 6 times in 3 sentences, okay? Then I hit them right between the eyeballs with this. That's why I specifically sought you out. In other words, interpretation, I care so much, I took the time to specifically find you, the owner of this specific property, okay? It's all about you. Even if you're just curious about what your property would sell for, there it is again, sell for, and then to give them the pitch, okay? Then I give them my contact information. So let's go ahead and open this up a little bit. Does anybody have any questions on this or need any clarification? It's not a silver bullet, by the way. This is not like you're getting 100% response rate. However, I will tell you, we actually had one time we got literally 50% response rate in one neighborhood. And that only had to happen once, but we would routinely get 18 to 24% response rates in certain neighborhoods. Other neighborhoods, it was normal, 3 to 6% or something. But I've never had any other letter, I don't care where it came from, who wrote it, ever outproduce this. And I have other students tell me over the years that this letter outproduced everything they've ever had too, So in any case, yeah, go ahead.
So you're saying that this like should be the cover letter with the booklet?
No, this would be separate.
Separate.
Yep, so you would send this all by itself. On the envelope, I suggest using not the long legal size envelope, but the letter size envelope. You can use the longer one if you want, but the smaller one, the letter size one seems more personal and you're more likely to open it, okay?
Interesting.
And this is really important too. We actually had somebody in the office actually handwrite the to address on the front, whoever was going to handwrite the address, the name and address, and then handwrite the return address. Now,
What return address did they use?
I always get that question. Thanks, Vanetta. So we learned to not put on the return address, ABC Realty, XYZ Realty, anything like that. We would put our name in the office address, but not like suite, whatever. We just put, 123 Main Street, Dale City, Georgia, whatever. I checked it out. I've taught in all 48, lower 48 states. I've never once seen a state saying that we couldn't do that, because the disclosure, where we tell them we're a realtor, that has to be on the letter. I've never seen a state that said it has to be on the envelope. The only person when it came close was California, and it wasn't the state, but it was a broker saying, well, we really want you to put on the return envelope, the return address, something to the effect that you're a realtor. And what we agreed to was to put our ID, the agent ID on there, because most consumers have no clue what that is, and we didn't care. But at least it didn't say ABC Realty, because we knew if it did, it'd go in the trash half the time, So disclosure belongs on the letter, not on the envelope, right? So the envelope, you don't put your own home address, put your, if you're an EXP, you have a designated broker of record for your region, you put that address on there. In any case, in most cases, you're not going to get a return letter. In most cases, you're gonna hopefully get a phone call. But what I would do is this: we would send this letter out multiple times, okay, and then we will follow up with a phone call. Okay. Now, typically, let's do a little quiz here. How often, or I'm sorry, how many times should we send this letter? It's right out of the textbook. Remember,
Does that tell you to start mailing?
Yeah, actually 12 times. And I think I've only had one time where somebody looked us up, called in and said, please stop sending the letter. In fact, I've had, and more one occasion, I've had this happen. After 12 letters, I get a phone call, somebody saying, hey, why'd you stop sending a letter? But me and the call you, I've just been busy,
So what's the time interval between sending the letters?
Second most popular question. I'll give you the lawyer's answer. It depends. So
I don't want their answer. I want your answer.
yeah, so here's what I figured out. It really does depend on the circumstances and what type of a market we're in. So right now we're clearly in a seller's market. So if I was in production today, guys, I would start off with just with arm's length type consumers. In other words, they're not in bankruptcy, foreclosure, or probate. Okay, those would be special circumstances. More mainstream or normalized type prospects. In the seller's market, I would send the first 4 of them once a week for 4 weeks. Okay. And then I would send the next 2 bi-weekly, or the next 4 bi-weekly, and the final 4 I would send monthly. So the first 4 are weekly, the second 4 bi-weekly, right? That's 4 letters in 2 months, plus 4 letters in the first month. That's 3 months so far. And then the next 4 months, they get 1 per month. Now, as far as calling, I really didn't, I mean, this is going to sound crazy. I really didn't have to call a lot of people. We had enough business coming in that, I mean, we were probably slack. I mean, in hindsight, we probably should have called the people that didn't call us, but we didn't really do that a lot, I mean, we did, like in the winter time, we would do more phone calls because things were slower. But the reality is, we'd have neighborhoods, we would just completely dominate with this thing. So now, that was like timing based on today's market, but let's look at circumstances. So let's say somebody's going through a divorce, because we can find that out too. I would probably send maybe only the first two bi-weekly, because I know in a divorce, there's lots of attorneys out there and lots of other agents who are connected to attorneys who will get that information. And I've had people tell me they literally would go to the house and knock on the door. And this is kind of where I drew the line for myself. I thought I knew what it's like to go through that life experience. And the last thing I wanted was people knocking on the doors. Hey, I understand you want to sell your house, So I just chose not to do that. I did have a couple students. Well, I had many students take this letter and try to modify it. And I know one for a fact that I believe others too, said that they got a call. And the caller was irate because they wanted to know, how did they know this person was going through divorce? I said, what are you talking about? I said, did you change the letter? And he said, yes. I said, what did you put in there? And let's say the guy's name was Clay. He said, dear Clay, I'm sorry to hear about your pending divorce. That was his first sentence. Yep. Just like that. So I'm not surprised he didn't get a nasty call. So the thing that's nice about this letter, guys, is it's very neutral. It doesn't actually mention any specific circumstances, does it? It doesn't. But we know we're more likely to respond to it than most other folks, because we actually do know their circumstances. We know at some point they're going to need to or want to sell. Okay. So by the way, we did spend for a couple of years, we did focus on divorce cases, and then eventually we just got away from it. But some of them were nice and easy. Some were huge, just pains in the neck. My gosh, you can't imagine. I mean, for one thing, the couple a lot of times aren't even talking to each other. So what chance do we have of getting them to sign a document together? That was one of the problems. And then, some other times it was like going to see the property and they weren't cooperating. They were like, it was just constant battle. She doesn't clean, so I'm not going to clean. Or he doesn't cut the grass, so I'm not going to cut the grass. So anybody ever had that before happen? You go to show a divorce house and it's like,
Absolutely.
oh, I got to tell you this real quick, because this is actually funny. And I'll move on. So this one house was in my neighborhood, and I went to show it, and it was a big, beautiful 2-story foyer and big arches, entryways into the dining room and the living room. So up above the dining room one was a greater than life-size painted portrait of the bride on her wedding day, with a big slash through it. This guy must have went up there with a knife or a sword or something. And I'm like, holy crap. So the wife came out, and she was tiny. And then she said, I just need a ladder to get up there. And I said, I don't think you should do that. I said, just call me. I'll come down Saturday and I'll bring my ladder and I'll get this thing down for you. And that was sort of awkward, but it was comical when a person was giggling. But the really strange part, we went down to the basement, and underneath the stairs in the basement was a small little room closet carved out. Guess who was living in that little closet under the stairs? The hubby. I'm like, I don't know what this guy did, but boy, he must have.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was. And he's on his computer working away, and don't mind me. But because I heard something, I thought, oh Lord, I hope they don't have some kind of animals in there or something. But he was in there working. So yeah, we got the house sold. But that was one of the strangest. Okay, so on back to the letter. I've been really pushing cold calling for a year now. I started pushing that back in, I think, last May or June. Anybody remember when I switched my gears and I said, just go right to the phone calling? I still agree with that. It's very not my nature to do that, but I'm starting to feel like the way the market is, maybe it's time to start introducing the letter back into the mix. So if any of you want to test this, okay, and see what happens in your market, do your research, find out who you want to target, send them the letter, send them maybe 2 letters, maybe 3, maybe 4, depending on the circumstances, and then follow up with a phone call. If they're, let's do this. Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Did you say send them 4 letters in 1 week? Did I understand you right?
And then call, but I'm thinking right now, but I'm actually going to contradict myself. I'm going to say maybe send 2 letters,
Okay.
1 per week, and then call them the 3rd week. Okay, something like that. And the reason is the market's still, it's not, even though we can see signs of the market changing, interest rates have gone up, and we have a listing in Colorado right now that perfect wording, perfect pictures, everything's perfect. The price was perfect. It went out on a Thursday, went live on Thursday, and as of Saturday, not a single phone call. You know, I was shocked. I said, "Oh boy, something's wrong here. The price was something's got to be wrong," and nothing's wrong. So I'd had her name's Jody. I said, "Jody, go ahead and put this on Facebook Marketplace. Just give it some kind of a boost, and let's see what happens." But in any case, just another indicator. I mean, this stuff's happening all over the country, and that's why I feel like the letters. Let's face it, it's a stamp and an envelope and a piece of paper, and you can. We haven't done this for a while, but when we first started, they let us let us load our letter up into ReallyFlow and run it through their direct mail campaign. So then they could do the mailing, right? And we didn't have to do that. In the old days, you know, old days being 10 years ago, we actually did it ourselves, right? We did the sort merge, everything was automated other than the mailing. And then we just had, you know, two of the office people there stamping, signature stamper, and we did go to on the return address. We did go to a stamped, you know, the rubber stamper on the return address. We did go to that, and I can't tell you that it cost us any business because we never actually measured it, but I don't think it cost us any business doing that. The main thing was the envelope was letter size, and the address was handwritten to the person we're sending it to. Okay. But in any case, I would say, guys, if you want to do this, do 2 letters and a phone call, right? Do that. And then, and I would say do 2 more letters and another phone call. Yeah, Lisa.
So Gary, you're running this through KV Core. I have not done a mailing through KV Core yet, and I don't understand sort merge. So this could be a new thing for me. And then the second question is, are you using the KV Core number? I forget what you call it, smart number?
Yeah, well, a couple of things. So just to clarify, when I was talking about direct mail, like the physical mail, that would be ReallyFlow. I apologize if I said KV Core. I meant to say ReallyFlow.
Well, but are they going to do the mailing for us, or are we just printing them off and mail and addressing it?
Yeah, ReallyFlow will do the mailing, the actual mailing itself. Yep. So the only thing you don't get is, I think when they do it, I think it's mechanical, but you might be able to tell on the envelope that the address was not handwritten, but computer generated or laser generated. I could be wrong because I haven't set myself a ReallyFlow letter, but I know plenty of people were using it. You know, I mean, Tony was one of the first ones. So here's what I would suggest. Okay, if you're for those who look in a more clear direction, I would say do it yourself manually first. Like just do maybe 100 letters, and if you have somebody that can help you, you know, stamp and things like that, or you may be able to take them to the post office and they might do the stamping there for you, not the paper stamp, but the actual meter. The challenge there is that it's metered, okay? And that when something's metered, that means it's an official piece of mail or a marketing piece. Now, having said that, we did at one point do our own metering. You can buy the equipment, and it does save you money. If you do your own metering, the post office won't charge you 50 cents a stamp, you know?
I think here, and I'm not sure about anywhere else, you have to have 250 per zip code in order to do that, take advantage of it.
Okay.
But yeah, I haven't done that in years.
Yeah, I would say for the newer folks, for folks just getting into production, start off with like 50 letters, 50 to 75 letters, and do the 2 letters. So that's going to be, if it's 50 letters, you're looking at $100, and then follow up with the phone calls, because 50 phone calls is a lot. That's a lot of phone calls, you know, and you don't want to like take forever to call them. If you send out a letter, and let's say they get it today's Monday, let's say they get it by Thursday, okay, then the next Monday you send out another letter to get it that next Thursday. I would call them the following Monday, and I wouldn't let it drag on more than a week. I mean, if you can do 50 calls in 2 days, I would do it. If you can do it in 1 day, I would do it, you know? No,
Gary,
yes.
don't tell them 50 calls is a lot.
I'm with him, Dina. Can I ask a question though?
He calls it a day.
If we have the list from Really Flow already, and it's, I mean, I got it scrubbed, the call list, it has the addresses, all the things.
Yep.
And I'm working through that list with the calls. Could I send the letter also?
Yes,
Like
you
what-
could. Yeah, and we did have a student one time that chose to call first and then send the letter. But I never got any conclusive results from it. You know, I just, you know, I had to wrap my head around that. But I think what his ultimate aim was to only send a letter to the people who he had a conversation with on the phone. And my first thought was, well, what's the point of sending a letter then? I mean, the letter is designed to get them to elicit a response, to get them to call you. It's called reverse lead generating, you know? It's actually direct response, reverse lead generating is the long tail term for that. So that was my first thought. So, well, then you're not really doing that, you're not doing that type of marketing, you're doing a different kind of marketing. But I wish I could tell you the final analysis on that, but we don't have any results on that. I would say, if you call them, Liz, and you don't get an answer, you leave, in a voicemail, I'd keep it short and sweet. But what I would do is then send a letter to people that you did not have a conversation with. So for example, if you use one of my old voicemail scripts, it's almost like the letter here. I would say, you know, hi Clay, my name is Gary Wilson. I live in the area and I'm calling you about your property located at 17 Elmlane and Etna. I'd like to discuss this with you. Would you please call me at your earliest convenience? And that's the voicemail, right? So if you do that kind of voicemail, then you can send a letter. And by the way, in the voicemail, did I disclose I was a realtor? Nope, because it was one directional. It wasn't an actual conversation. You know, I checked that out too, and I've never yet had anybody say, nope, you can't do that. They've all said, actually, technically, you can do that. So, so if you leave a voicemail like that, then I would say, go ahead and send a letter, okay?
Okay.
But if you talk to them in person, I don't see the point of sending a letter if you talk to them in person, you know?
Well, I ask because back in the day when they were doing a lot of development up around Johns Hopkins University, if they're in Baltimore, we did a mailing campaign up there and got a lot of success on the, you know, in the sense of sometimes it was the fourth one that hit and got the call, you know, got the call communication exchange going. But I do remember a woman who contacted us and she had all of our letters. And she said, I've been collecting these. And she was going through a divorce. And she was like, I'm ready to talk. And I was like, okay. So, I mean, you know, it was crickets for a while, but it does work.
Yeah.
And that's why we had never tested sending the letter to those that we didn't actually have a, you know, two-way communication with. And that's
Yeah.
why I asked the question to see if that had ever been done.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Hey,
you.
By the way, interesting factoid. Who here remembers the old adage was, you gotta try to contact them 5 times before you have. Anybody ever hear that?
Yeah,
Guess what it is now?
13.
at least a
7,
dozen.
7, yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it's up to 10. I don't know. The last I checked it was 7. And I think it's just information overload. I mean, we're just getting bombarded with stuff left and right. And, you know, it's crazy. So maybe my friends Rick and Anna got it all figured out. They're traveling around North America for 4 months in an RV, and they're not getting an email. So, in any case, let me think. There's anything else in this letter that I should share with you. So if you phone call, I just gave you one thing which is important, which is the voicemail script. Now, by the way, if you do phone call them and you get an answer, then you would try to stick to this as best you can. The thing about a live phone call is it kind of a little bit chaotic. It can just random. You don't know how the conversation is going to go. You could get somebody like me to just start rambling and never shut up, you know. So, but you've got to be able to try to stay in your lane as best you can and not get caught up in the discussion of their bunny rabbit or their grandchild going to Johns Hopkins to study medicine. You just, you know, you want to build rapport, but you're also got to be mindful of your time, right? So conversations can sometimes go way down a rabbit's hole. So having something like this in front of you helps you get back on track. You know, the main thing you're looking for in all cases, whether it's a letter or a phone call, is to set a what?
Appointment.
Set an appointment. That's the key. That's what you're going to do, because once you're there, believe me, your instincts will kick in. You might freeze up once or twice. You'll get over it, but you'll remember more than you think you will remember when you're in there having a conversation. By the way, let me stop the share. I'm gonna give you guys a quick little tip here. Have you ever heard of something called the file method for remembering things? The file method.
I don't remember what it is.
There's a great audio video tutorial on this. It's for people remembering speeches. So if you ever see me speak or teach a class, I can go for 3 days and not have a single script in front of me. Okay. Now sometimes, yeah, I'm usually using a PowerPoint, but when I've done other speeches, I use a file method, which means use your fingers. Okay. So what you want to do is when you know, a lot of people write their speeches down, things like that. I think that kind of messes you up. I think you should write down a outline of what you're going to say, but not all the details, because your mind's going to kick in and fill in the details for you when you're speaking. So if you have your outline, hopefully some more than 10 things. If it is, what do? Well, you have a higher level, like scene or acts in a play, right? And each act has several scenes. So your left hand could be your acts, act 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the thumb, I know, is the introduction. I know that my index finger, excuse me, is you know, what it is I want to tell them. Number 3 is an example or story. Number 4 is, you know, back it up with some kind of statistics or something they could use. And number 5 is the wrap up. Well, in those 5 acts, I might have multiple scenes per act. Then I would use both sets of fingers. So it's like a file system in a computer. So in any case, that's what the file system is. And if you're really good, you'll get used to doing that. Because if you have something like I was at a wedding back in October, and I was they asked me to give the prayer for the dinner, and everybody got up before me to give them the toast and all that kind of stuff. All had things written down, and every one of them got stumped. You know, so what's really neat is when you go up there and I'm doing this file system. Nobody knows what I'm doing, of course. I got choked up admittedly at one point, but I got my composure back and got the whole thing done. And you wouldn't believe how many people came up and said, "How did you remember all that?" You know, and I told them it's called the file system, and you know, it was an emotional thing, so I was really into it. But the point I'm getting at is you'll really impress people if you go in there and you don't have like a printed script in front of you. They'll really impress people. So it's an easy thing to learn. I think you could probably Google it and find out the file system for remembering speeches or something like that. Yes, ma'am.
There's another system that I use when I do moth speeches or Toastmaster speeches, which I do with no notes. No, moth you can't, but Toastmasters you could, but I don't do any notes or anything. Is you walk around your house and the different sections of the speech. The first one's the front door, and you attach that in your brain to the front door. And then whatever the next room is, you walk into your house, maybe it's your living room or my dining room. That would be my next section, and then the kitchen and the living room and out to the Florida room and my backyard. And those are my 5 points. And each one has a specific grouping or story or lesson or something that is attached to that. And so all I have to do in my head is just walk through my house.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, that's association. So when I'm using my fingers, by the way, I will use association sometimes. Like big thumb, like I've got a green thumb. Oh, green, that's right. We're talking about green. We're talking about money. Money's green. But I was at a restaurant one time and there were 12 of us at the table, and this waiter came up and he didn't write a single thing down. And every time he would meet somebody and ask their order, he would look up like that. They would look back down and say, "Thank you, I've got it," and go to the next person. Nailed it. Nailed the complete dinner, everything from hors d'oeuvres to desserts, completely 100% perfectly. And I asked him, I said, "How did you do that?" And he said, it's an association method of memory. He was associating things. He'd look up and, see one light bulb was brighter than another. He said, "Oh, this guy must be pretty bright. Bright people like fish." And he would remember this association, bright light, bright person, fish, right? That's what he told me afterwards. So he got a
Yeah, that's it's like that Dominic O'Brien, he is like a memory champion and he uses that, and Gina, he uses that memory palace too. So I was studying memory with him, and association was a really big thing, like not with him, but studying his books, you know, but association, and then having unique experiences, having the people that you're doing things like do something that's memorable. So throughout the house, like some odd thing happening that is memorable, so that you can tie it together. Yeah. So stuff.
Hey, so, and thanks guys for sharing, by the way. Now back to the subject matter. So the two things are, so what two campaigns do I strongly suggest that you should have going at all times?
The booklet and the letter.
The letter.
That's it. Yep. And if you call the people, I promise you'll have much better results. So the reason I'm so emphatic about this, and I've been emphatic about this for over a year now, is because of the data that's out there. Lord, if you turn off the television and don't let the spinning heads influence you or interpret for you, you know, just Google, look at the data, look at interest rates, inflation, the stock market, housing, look at the last housing market when the bubble burst. You know, now there were obviously some other circumstances like the mortgage business, all the fraudulent loans. But the fact is that would you agree it was an overheated market then? It was a market really hot leading up to the recession, blistering hot. It was not even as bad as it is now. This is worse than it was back then. There's other factors too, like the true level of mortgages that are behind. Those numbers are up there, guys. You know, there's so many things on the news to take our attention off of it, like Ukraine, the pandemic, all these things are happening that dominate our attention. And the media, let's face it, when Ukraine started, anybody notice how all of a sudden the pandemic kind of just went by the wayside? It's like they just switched gears. It's completely. So it's amazing how that happens. But the reality is they're not telling us to be prepared for what's coming down the road, because they want us to keep spending our money. They want consumer confidence to stay up. Right?
Have you seen all the articles that it's not going to happen? We're never going to have a housing crash, or we're not going to have it for 2 or 3 years. Have you seen all those popping up? It's crazy.
Yeah, I've seen that too. And I will say there are some logic on the part that we definitely have, a housing shortage, especially in affordable housing. So I do believe it's true that we need more housing. However, the fact remains that for the last couple of years, millions of people have been buying millions of houses and overpaying for them. They're just like leaps and bounds, paying more and more and more and waiving contingencies, appraisal contingencies, inspections. And they're just assuming they're all going to have work till the end of time, or the government's going to bail them out or something. I don't know what they're thinking, but the point is when a market goes into correction, okay, in spite of all the underlying circumstances, the fundamentals always are the same. The fundamentals are you're going to have some job losses. And sometimes those people are the ones that just bought a house and way overpaid for it and are strung out on some kind of a workout plan, for example, things like that. But the point I'm getting at is there will be properties going into a foreclosure. It's just a mathematical certainty, okay? Even with a housing shortage, okay? So it's going to happen. And what happens is, if you ever lived in an area and you saw the increase in foreclosures, what did it do to property values in the area?
Tanked.
Yep. So it's going to happen. It's not, you can't change those things. Yeah, the builders can still build. In the last recession, I worked with a builder. It didn't stop him. He was still building, just like there was no yesterday. But we still had a major recession. So I hear what those guys are saying. I just don't think it's going to be compelling enough to stop what I think is a much bigger thing going on here. So
Rob's asking to be promoted. And even if it does, the thing that I saw in the last one was the consumer confidence. And once it was gone, because before that, they were like, we don't have enough houses and people, and there's all this, demand and everything. And then just one day there just wasn't. There just wasn't.
Well, think about it. When consumer confidence drops and there's a correction or a recession going on and people are losing jobs, do you think people are going to start to think to themselves, well, maybe I'll just sit tight for a bit? Yeah, that's what happens. So there's, any case, and I'm not trying to scare you guys. I really want to trying to prepare you, and the fact is,
Wait, I'm frightened now.
oh yeah, it's really nothing to be frightened about, PF. I promise you. I've been through it enough times. The reality is the houses that are standing today will still be standing tomorrow. The houses aren't going away. Okay, they will change hands. They will definitely go from one owner to another owner. That's going to happen. And if you keep your head about you, you'll be the agent that makes those transactions happen, right? Any veterans? Can I get an amen from any of the veterans? Veteran agents have been around for a couple.
Amen.
I gotta tell you. So PF, the last recession, these are facts. Half the agents left the business. Literally half, just gone. I mean, it was fast, But did you know statistically across the country, volume only dropped 25%? That's a big drop, 25%. But it's only half of the 50% of the agents that left. So what that means is the half of the agents that were left just got a raise by 50%. In other words, 25% is 50% of 50%, right? You see what I'm saying? So the volume dropped 25%, half the agents left. That means the half that were there still had 50% more transactions. Now, not all of them did. I know agents that still struggle, but some agents like me grew sixfold in the recession.
I quadrupled every year. And
Yeah.
also the best part to be in business is when it does, all the agents leave and the agents leave behind the market. So the market's going to be going down and agents leaving will be behind that because it takes them a little while to start to leave the industry. But then if you think about it, in most states, it takes 3 months to 9 months to license, depending upon your state, but there's a time frame. Most states aren't like Washington State, I could license in a week. It was a piece of cake, but most states, it takes a little bit of time. So when the market shifts and the volume starts coming back up again, it takes agents time to get back in the business. This is the best time to be in the business right here. The market shifts, it takes off, and there's nobody in the industry. So hang on, don't get scared, just be prepared. And there really is a lot of money to be made. It's just your business model shifts. That's all it is. You just shift with it, which is why you guys are where you should be, where we all are where we should be, because this is an investor-based business model that will be regular transaction enhanced versus when the market's super hot, it tends to go the other direction.
Yeah.
So you're in good hands, PF.
Yeah. And, well, the other cool thing is, and Dustin, you mind if I call on you, Dustin, a little bit? So, and by the way, guys, you probably haven't known yet. He's joined the XP back in December and brought in, probably 15. Now you're probably up to close to 20 people, maybe. I'm guessing.
22.
22. Holy smokes! And Dustin and I have known each other for a lot of years prior to the last recession, and we both were at KW. We met at I think at a KW function. I can't remember which one it was, but we were going to everything, And both of us work with investors, right? And it was really unusual because we look at each other like, I swear it's like we're the only two people to do this in this entire region, the 7-county region of Western Pennsylvania. I mean, there were other agents that work with investors, but not like we had an intentional game plan for it. And Dustin, if you don't mind me asking, what happened to your business in the years of the last recession? Did it go down or did it go up?
Well, I actually got licensed right before the market crashed in 2008, and I was learning during the market crash. So to me, it was like, that was just what it was. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't anything different because I didn't know anything else. But the first deal or the first year that I was a full-time agent, I closed 38 transactions, and from that year on, more and more and more consistently. And it's actually harder now, I think, to sustain success in real estate than it was back then, because there was less competition, and the people who were working were actually, they had more than enough deals.
Yeah. It's now what's your ratio of owner occupant transactions versus investor transactions back then and then now? Because I know now you've got a big team that's probably more owner occupied focused, but what was it back then?
Back then, probably 2010, I think I did 70 or 80% were investor side. Right now, it's like maybe 40% are investor side, maybe 40 to 50%, I would guess. So it's, transitioned quite a bit. We do more retail now, but the investors are, the consistent ones where, if we got a flipper and he's doing 6 units a year, that's 6 listings a year from one person. We don't have to, consistently go out and work to get those.
Right. Yeah. It brings home a good point here is, Gina mentioned this a few moments ago. It's your business model that matters. So like Dustin's describing his business model, he's got the big piece of the whole pie. He's serving owner occupants and investors both, and that pie shifts as the market shifts. So it's during a recession, it'll be again. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're going to see more than half our business be investor business in the next couple of years. But up till now, it's been probably 80%, owner occupant, just even on our team, as heavily invested as we are in investors, but it really does pay, guys, to have one eye on today. You got to take up the business today. Whatever the market's doing today, you've got to serve that market. You got to match the market, okay? But you also have to have one eye on tomorrow. Be prepared for the oncoming market. Think ahead, look ahead. And if we believe we're going into a correction, and we know statistically and historically that there will be a greater percentage of investor transactions and fewer owner occupant transactions, I'm telling you, you're going to be thanking yourself for preparing for it now and not waiting. The people that waited the last time, they waited too long. It was too late. I mean, once you establish those relationships, I know Dustin, probably you can vouch for this too, is I never had to worry about loyalty from my clients. I mean, once you can demonstrate that you understand the terminology and the methodology and you have the tools, you got, calculators and spreadsheets and things like that. They're not going to go anywhere else. I mean, with Dustin, on a percentage basis, how much of your business would you say is repeat business from your core set of clients?
Like 50 to 60%.
Yep.
And that's when you're an investor agent, like if you know what you're talking about, you're like the top 1% of the top 1% in that market. There's not a lot of agents that know what they're talking about. So that sets you apart as long as you're focusing on investors and you're lead generating for investors and you know what you're talking about, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I probably spent very little on marketing dollars in those years. I mean, probably nothing. Probably zero marketing budget. And so Annette, I know today you were saying you really want to ramp up your investor side of the business, and I would definitely go over those modules again. But let's figure out how much of a percentage of your pie should be the investor business. And one easy way to find out is go back in your tax records and your MLS, look at the year 2010, and try to gauge the percentage of investor transactions, absentee owners, right, versus owner occupants, and then look at it now in the last year or so. You'll see a dramatic difference. But you should try to match the market in your current production, but prepare for what the oncoming market is bringing us. And I'm actually optimistic about it. I know it sounds crazy because in my first 3 recessions, I was not optimistic. I was scared because I'm watching the news. I'm thinking, my gosh, I got 2 kids and a mortgage, and the money's going out as fast as it comes in, and what if something happens? And that's what was going through my head. But now, like, because of what I learned in the last recession, I learned to not panic. It's wasted energy, but rather to prepare, right, and get ready for it. And I'm excited because here's the thing. Here's the best part of all. Let's say the contrarians are correct, and this thing doesn't happen for 5 more years, or it never does. It's going to happen. There's no such thing as a market that doesn't go down. But let's say that they were right. Are we harming ourselves by taking this kind of strategy? No, not at all. You're actually building out a part of your model that you should be building out anyways. and you're preparing yourself for, hopefully doing your own investing and preparing for when that opportunity comes, when the market does turn, it's going to be easier to negotiate. There'll be fewer offers. There'll be more foreclosures. It'll be easier to get better deals. So prepare now, so you're ready when it happens. And that's I can't emphasize that enough. And I know it's hard because I'm sure today you woke up, you probably had a plan, and maybe you only got 2/3 of it done. I believe me, I get it. But I just want to make sure when you go to bed at night, you get this in your head that you're gonna, if you haven't started yet, start preparing now. Start preparing now. The numbers don't lie. When Mark Yagi, you'll meet him because he's going to teach a class for us. The guy knows his stuff, and he's not a gambler, right? But he also knows, like I do, the fact that we don't know. We can't tell you when the shoe's going to drop on this thing, but that's why we prepare now. We want to be ahead of the curve. So guys, is this making sense? Is it really starting to kind of sink in here?
Yeah, I love this conversation. And I did want a little bit of clarity around, you mentioned to Bonetta to kind of go back to 2010 in the MLS and look for absentee owners, and then
to try to gauge what their ratio of transactions was, how much a percentage was investor, how much of a percentage was owner occupant. Even if you just compared the multifamily part of Melanie, does your database, your MLS allow you to delineate multifamily, like is it a separate category?
It is.
Yeah, so just look at that and then look at single family homes at that same time frame.
Okay.
Get the ratio, and then do the same thing for this past year, like 2021.
Okay.
And see if you notice a dramatic difference. And then you'll know what your model should look like percentage wise.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that way you can match today's market, but still prepare for tomorrow's market.
Okay.
All right, let me see what else I got down here. Let's see, stock market, booklet and letter. Okay, hey, real quick on ideal estate. Remember, ideal estate is something we can all use. It doesn't matter what brokerage you're in. So Dustin, just so you know, these Monday Night Live classes, we have people on from different brokerages and all over the country, So in any case, ideal estate is something we all have access to. So Gina and I both were able to speak with the CEO last week. And one of the things I want to share with you, so I'll do a share screen, because I wasn't quite sure myself, how am I going to use this? I mean, I like the whole concept. Here we go. Okay, so this is my dashboard, all right? And you can use this for sales and for agent attraction. So no matter what brokerage you're in, every brokerage wants to grow their business. So you can use this to help attract people. So if you just remember this or write this down, or just remember to look at the recording again tomorrow, assuming you have an account, you can get a free one. You get one that's $40 a month, or you can get one that's $160 a month, okay? So let's say you're doing anyone, it doesn't matter, you can always do this. Actually, hang on a second. Let me show you the one on agent attraction first. So here's my picture, I just updated it. Hopefully it's okay. I don't know, I don't like seeing pictures of myself, but you guys can vote and tell me if you like this one or the old one better. So you click on Find Recruits, and here's how you do this respectfully and ethically, okay? So you go to the next screen, and you want to remember this. You want to click on All Professionals. It's defaulted to my network only. Click on All Professionals, okay? And then here in company name, you can type in, RE/MAX, for example. Okay, I think there might be one or two RE/MAX folks on. And then you hit the enter key. Now it's going out and finding all the people who are RE/MAX on Ideal Estate. Now, Ideal Estate, I'm pretty sure he told me, has like over 1 million people on it. I think there's 30,000 EXP people and 100,000 KW people. I know that, he told me that for a fact. I don't know the count on RE/MAX, but there's page after page after page. So here's the steps, okay? Let me back up first. Go over here on categories. You can select them based on where they are, which I highly recommend. So if you're in Oklahoma, you should probably select Oklahoma, right? You can select only people that have had listings in the last year, you know. You can select people in a certain price range. Let's see, lead professional category alone. But let's say you select all that. This is all you do. These are the 2 steps. You come over here, select connect, okay? And do that for, say, whatever, you know, 50 people or something. And then come back another couple of days later and then click on message and send them a message. And Ideal Estate actually has canned messages. So let me go to the playbook and I'll show you this.
While he's doing that, you can only connect with something like 50 people a day, or Ideal Estate will slap your hand. I do not know what slapping your hand actually entails. I just know I was warned that you can only do a certain amount per day. I'm not even sure it's 50. I've done 50, and I think, Gary, you've done 52, and we've been safe so far.
I think so, yep.
Yeah, I haven't got slapped yet.
So if you click on playbook, okay, and I'm not going to go in all the details here, but if you go in here, follow-up message, okay, so you connect first, follow-up message. Sample introduction email. If you click on that, I believe is, okay, here's a sample introduction email. But I'm trying to find, you know, where he showed us, it had the whole library of all these things. What are some things to remember to building relationships?
You mean where the emails actually live?
Yeah, that.
If you go back, like pretend you're going to email somebody or email somebody, go back and connect with that person.
Okay, let me go back here.
Make your screen bigger so I can see what you're doing. I shouldn't be telling you this. You have 910 and I only have 246.
Yeah. So
Okay. Yes. So find us a person.
Okay. So
View all connections.
All
So
connections.
let's go. So go up, 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 right underneath my connections 3, down, down, down. There's orange that says view all to the right. There you go. Try that. And I'm still clunky in here too. So I think this is where it's gonna show me.
What's neat about this is it's personalized.
Actually, click your 6 box. Okay, click message then. Let's try that. When you click that, it should right there, select canned response to the arrow drop down.
Well, isn't the canned response like if they respond to you, what you'll see back right away?
Yeah, but you went, go back, which where you were again, second, sweetie. Just go back. Instead of clicking the plus, click the little caret that points down, the triangle. So try and message that person again.
Okay.
And there, click the triangle next to the plus. Click that. There you go. There's all your responses you can send.
There we go. Okay. Okay, cool. So in
And
any
you
case,
can add things in there and put your own responses in. So we've added one of our own, and we're testing it out to see. We're going to test out for a week to see what gets us responses, and then we'll try a different one until we can figure out what's actually going to get people to ping. The other thing I did on mine was I linked to my website, me personally, because my website's got scripts. I have a whole section of free scripts, and so I actually had somebody who went on there, found it, went through my scripts, and I'm like, okay, at least I've got them clicking in on stuff. So there's things that you can add about you. So I think it's underneath services, I think is where he told me to do mine on. Boards is you can, like if you've got houses in your neighborhood or area that you're looking in, you can add boards to that happen to like have a theme or whatever. It's like Pinterest, works like Pinterest.
okay. All right, sorry, I'm trying to go, maybe I have to go back. Oh, here I am. So services. So if I go back to my dashboard, to get services there.
Yep.
Okay.
So you can put in active services right there. So right there, you can put in, where'd you go? You scroll back up or scroll back down again. You've got an activity feed. So let's get below that activity feed, maybe.
There it is.
Right there, active services. So there's where you could add in your website, Scare.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. So guys, this is a great way to set up referral connections. Also, if you're in a position where you're attracting other agents, you can use it for that. but also you can use it to, obviously I think it captures your listings, if I'm not mistaken. It's almost like having a national MLS. So it has a lot of capability, and I would say try it and give it a good 3 months and see if something happens from it. I remember Daniel David did it in January, and he was on one of our classes, I think early March. In the prior week, he had something like 15 leads come from it, So it's crowd fed. So its success is based on us using it and sharing it with others. Okay. And it's industry wide. It doesn't matter what brokerage you're with. So I like that.
Hey, Gare,
Yes.
I'll review you 5 stars because I think you're pretty awesome. If you review me 5 stars,
Deal.
you got it.
Okay.
Anybody else on our team, if you decide to use this, let us know so we can, and we'll see, like, we'll test it out with Gary and I to make sure it works. And if it works, we'll review you all also back and forth.
Okay. All right. That was really the main things I wanted to show you. I do have some other resources I'm going to share with you in a second, but I want to go ahead and I'm going to recognize, first off, Bonetta for leading the R group, the Ramp It Up group, of our mastermind groups since its inception. And she's almost done with training. And guess what? Here's an interesting statistic. Of the original group of people, only 4 of them follow through to the end of the 90-day fast start. And guess what? All 4 of those people share in common.
Shut up. Really? This makes me so happy.
They're all Purdue. Yep. So it works, guys. I'm telling you, it works. So you just have to be persistent and consistent. So she used the 90-day fast start program, okay, and took them through that, and 4 of them went all the way through start to finish, and all 4 of them produced. So that's an interesting statistic when we can't say that about the other folks that didn't follow through and stick with it the whole way through. Okay. I'm not saying that some of them folks didn't produce, some of them did, but I'm saying that one fact is you can't get away from the 4 that got all the way done, produce, when will the new fast start program begin? So, okay, you can actually do it. Yeah, let me go on to the website here. Here we go. I go back a couple steps.
So I'm not a little invested in this one. So it makes me very happy.
Oh yeah. Well, Gina, actually kudos to Gina, because Gina and David Edwards actually created this. So let me scroll down here. So, okay, if you go into your dashboard and scroll down, you see 90-day fast start, you can start right away. All right. And I would suggest doing that if you haven't already. And by the way, the people I want to mention were Tony Moore, Laura Janvier, Brian Vasquez, and Kathy Urich, and a special mention to Liz Corellis, because Liz, even in spite of her having a full-time job, and I think, how many children do you have, Liz? Like 17 children and something like that. It's keeping you busy? No, I'm just kidding.
Let's not get carried away too. That's enough.
Very, very active. And she's also mom and wife and all the, so in any case, she's been a huge resource for that group, helping Bonetta keep things going, because it's a lot of work. And but that's the kind of thing that works. It pays off when you do those things. So in any case, but yeah, Gina guys had a huge role in creating this 90-day fast start program, right? So if you haven't done it, it was initially intended for brand new agents, and then we started getting requests from people wanting to do it who were already veterans. And of course, we don't like to say no to anybody, so we said yes, and it's broken into three 30-day intervals. Okay, this is the agenda for the first 30 days, and down in here is where you actually click on these things, and these are your instructions. The red, these are links, okay? And you go all the way down, there's 10 places here. And this gets you started. Then the next 90 days is another set of instructions. And we've had people blow through it in faster than 90 days. Most people take 90 days or longer. But I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have structure and organization. By default, we're independent contractors. I get it. But if you can allow yourself to engage and participate in stuff like this, it will bear fruit. When you're out there operating on your own independently, it's too easy to let a day go by, and then a day turns into a week, and you haven't really done anything in a structured way, an organized way. So just to remind you what we're doing, Kendra Dobbins is going to take the R group, and that's now going to become a more of a normalized mastermind group where you go over your wins, you go over your challenges, and you hold each other accountable by stating what your goals are for the next 2 weeks. Bonetta's still going to help out taking on new or newer agents, okay? Like probably up to 3 transactions or something. We're still working out the details on that. So it's not like Bonetta's going away. We just realized Bonetta has certain skills and talents that we needed to hone in on and apply more directly to people in certain circumstances. So, so keep an eye out for that. We've got more people we're developing, and some of you will have that opportunity too. The main thing is to really, you know, and I say do this daily. Do something extraordinary. You know, it's real easy to get caught up in the routine of the day and the week and the month. You might know what I'm talking about. You get, that's one thing I will tell you. I'm a planning maniac. You know, I thrive on setting goals and planning and executing, and I'm actually relentless about it. And it's you know, it's kind of I'm a little bit extreme sometimes with it. But I will tell you, one of the risks is that you fall into that routine and you're not letting yourself be aware of extraordinary opportunities. So when they pop up, and it doesn't have to just be in business, but I know you've all heard me say, if somebody approaches you and says, I want you to sell my gas station or an 80-unit apartment complex or a hotel, say yes. Just flat out condition yourself to say yes, okay? Because we're going to help you do it. You know, it's not just resources on the team, but our brokerage our word has resources. Any brokerage has resources. But I promise you, say yes. It's better than saying no, because you say yes, you're going to get something out of it. You're going to.
Can I tell a story about this?
Yeah.
When I was 20, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old, I got hired to be a full charge bookkeeper. I did not know how to do full charge bookkeeping. And all I knew how to do was like payroll and receivables and maybe payables. I knew chunks of it, but not all of it. And the guy asked me, who interviewed me, he said, can you do this? And I said, yes. And then about 6 months into it, I got really overwhelmed with something. I don't remember what it was. And I went to him and I'm like, I need help. And he goes, I was wondering when you were going to come here. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, I know you bald-faced lied on that interview. I said, I did not bald-faced lie. What are you talking about? He goes, when I asked you if you could do this, you said yes. I said, yes, I can. You did not ask me if I knew how. You asked me if I could. And that's how I got that job. So I think it's kind of cool. The guy hired me knowing that I bald-faced lied on the dang thing because he wanted to see how far this would go. 6 months over my head, teach me how to do this or fix this, whatever mess I was in. But that's how I got my start in accounting.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you what, when I was in the corporate world, I gave raises to people because they were basically there were cost of living increases, and they weren't real raises. They were just like pathetic 3 to 5% raises. But basically it was just to keep up with things. The people that got promoted, would you say I promoted them because of what they did in the past, or did I promote them because of what I thought they were capable of in the future?
Oh, it's potential.
Absolutely. You get promoted based on what both people believe you can do. So when you're an independent contractor, you're your own boss. You got to believe in yourself, and that's why you say yes. You say yes to opportunity, and you will figure out how to make it happen. That's Richard Branson's famous quote. And it happens, the more you do it, the more you get used to it. And then you'll learn, that becomes your habit. That becomes your normal, you know? So in any case, I better check the chat box because I haven't looked at it at all. It's just beginning here. So
I have a question, Gary.
yes.
If we could go back to Ideal Estate for a minute. There's 2 ways to sign up. One is through KV Core and the other one is through Ideal Estate. If you just do Ideal Estate, then it's less expensive, but does it have all the functionality as the same as if you had done it through KV Core as far as communicating back and forth?
He said there was extra things. Gary can probably add to this, but I know he said there's extra functionality when it's attached to KV Core, and that's why it costs more. It's got more bells and whistles of something. I do not know what. Do you know, Gary?
I think I'm going to do that. So I'll let you know what they are.
He did, I thought he said though, and I could have got this wrong, Gina. Didn't he tell us we're fine just sticking with the ideal estate natively, like on the internet, like not
For
going?
us, he might have, because he also said that we can upload anything we want to into any system we want to.
Yeah,
So we can take all the clients and dump them into any CRM we want to. I'm not sure what the extra functionality was, but he did say, you know what? You're probably right, because I was on one of his classes where someone was talking about it and he was like, there's extra stuff if you want to go that direction. I know he's doing a lot of extra things just for our team.
yeah. Okay,
I will say this also, Brody's he's in Utah this week because Senator Hatch, is that who it was that passed away?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Senator Hatch passed away. He's a really good family friend of them. So he's out at Utah this entire week, going to the memorial or the funeral or whatever's happening this week. And he's with Senator Hatch's son, which is again, a good close friend of the family and the family out there. And so I'm not bugging him this week. I already have notes to bug him for the following week. So just
Okay.
heads up.
thank you. Let's see, this is Dustin, the average agent closing 12 deals a year in 2010, and now it's 5. Yep. So Justin just had to just check out there. Hopefully he'll participate more going forward. He's technically not on the team, but he's an EXP. Okay, coming up here, we have a guest coming next week. Robert Taylor's his name. He's from Baltimore, and he's as soon as we started the pod, had him on a podcast, and I was like, we got a lot in common. I lived in Baltimore when I was a kid for 4 years. He knew exactly where I live, where I went to elementary school. The university was, let's see, what was the, now I'm drawing a blank on it. In any case, long story short, I thought he did a really good job, very authentic, and was sharing a lot. So I'm going to have him teach next week's class on flipping. Okay, so make sure you're there. He's got some good tools and strategies and methods he uses. And then 2 weeks after that, everybody definitely needs to be in class on May 23rd, because Susan Schaefer's coming on. Susan Schaefer is she and her husband Jared own Schaefer Realty, and they also own a title company that at one point was the #1 title company in the entire region. That they're in Tidewater, Virginia, and Schaefer Realty at one point had like 200 agents. So I've known them for years, and we stayed in touch. And I went to see them a month or so ago, and I gave her one of my books. She gave her maybe one of her books, and talking about their educational program. So she's going to teach on the 23rd. She's going to give some preliminary assignments. So keep an eye out. And tomorrow's email from Bev's going to put in there the 3 things you need to come prepared for on the 23rd. So come prepared on the 23rd with your assignment. It's not much. It's just basically your production. I think last year and this year, but I know Susan personally, so it's going to be a working session, like the way I like to do things, not just a class, but let's actually look at things and figure things out. So be prepared for that, and make sure you engage with her just like you engage with me and anybody we have teaching these classes. I think she'll really appreciate it. You know, there's good. I mean, Gina, did you ever run across them when you were in Tidewater? Do any transactions with
Our agents did a bunch. I wasn't in production out there, but we did a bunch, and they were a big powerhouse out there.
Yep. So Kate, I would for Ideal Estate, Kate, I would go through directly to Ideal Estate and not go through KV Core. That's what I believe was recommended to us. So thanks for the question. But in any case, be on for that, and then I'll keep you posted as far as Mark Yagi when I can have him teach. Now, it's not going to be real estate. It's going to be basically, securing your financial future and investing, and he'll give you some real good tips and pointers, and I've learned I'll just tell you, when it comes to my investing decisions, I always look and see what he's doing and what he says. That's hard. I don't do anything when it comes to anything outside of real estate. Mark's the guy I go to, you'll see when you meet him, but I thought it'd be an interesting class. It'd be a diversion from what we're normally used to, but at the same time, I think it's vitally important, so, okay. Any questions?
Gary, when did you say Yagi is going to teach?
We don't have a date yet. I'll have to
You
let
don't have a
know.
book yet, right?
Yeah, But next week,
Okay.
the 9th and the 23rd, the 9th is Robert Taylor. He's from Baltimore. Baltimore is one of the best markets to invest in, has been for a long time. And
then Schaefer.
and then Susan Schaefer on the 23rd. Yeah. Yep. And if I
Good
know
stuff.
her,
Yeah,
she's going to give you something that you can use, take away, so.
Yeah, I always enjoy the experts you bring in. There's always good stuff.
Yep.
Amen.
So I wanted to ask some questions tonight. I just didn't want to kind of burden the group with it, but regarding the market and stuff, because my folks are, are looking to move back to Florida from South Carolina at some point. And, they never buy real estate at the right time. They've always lost money. My stepdad's always, always like hating on the fact, and he's very vanilla, doesn't take any risk. And they're leaning on me, asking me what I think they ought to do. And they're coming to visit me and stay for a month in Florida in this month. And I'm like, I'm just apprehensive about what to tell them to do, because it's not a client, it's a family. And then, more so than ever, I would have to kind of deal with the repercussion, or good or bad, of that advice.
Yep.
So
a couple things here. First off, if he sells in South Carolina and buys in Florida, he's definitely going to take a hit, because Florida prices have gone up way more than South Carolina prices.
Right.
Percentage basis and a hard dollar basis. Now, having said that, if you look at look at the website, Rob, the IRS tax filings, tax migration, that website we have.
Okay.
You can see that North Carolina and Georgia are receiving more funds, more investing dollars than South Carolina, just like Florida is, and Texas and things like that. But I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'm going to tell you, I think going forward, South Carolina is going to be probably one of the lead states as far as growth in population and incoming investing dollars. It's just a gut feeling I've got. Because it's sitting there all quiet by itself. And if you've ever been there, I mean, it's ripe for it. I mean, you've got upstate, you've got it's called low country, and you've got the beach resort area. And in the center of the state's Columbia, with the University of South Carolina. But it's not a depressed state, but it's just always been kind of a quiet underperformer. Nobody really pays much attention to it. Still small, low population relative to land. And I just got a feeling and actually in a practical sense, of the southern states, other than like Mississippi, it's like the last remaining state that hasn't been completely, I mean, look at North Carolina. You wouldn't even recognize it if you knew it, 50 years ago.
Right.
Same thing with Georgia. So South Carolina, it's it, man. That's the last place, so.
Yeah, we lived in Savannah, Georgia for years. And then in 98, I moved to Florida, and around 2005 or something, my mom moved to Florida. And Georgia is completely different. Like, all my best friends in the world still live there, but it's completely different. Even in the last decade, all the growth around Savannah and so forth is crazy. And the issue that I'm trying to get my stepfather to understand is very, very, very vanilla when it comes to everything. The thing I'm trying to get him to understand is it's not just, what is the market going to do, Rob? Well, what's the market going to do? Should I buy now or what? It's not just that question of what's the market going to do. I'm trying to explain to him also, we'll take into account all of the factors. Look at your interest rates. Look at this. Look at those things are different. If you had bought a year ago and financed, something versus now, and your interest rate goes up a point, 2 points, whatever, you're looking at hundreds of dollars in your monthly payment. Would it be better for you to buy something, and if you're not going to return to Florida for 3 years, would it be better for you to buy it now and then just use it as a rental? Would it be better for you to buy a rental that you don't intend to live in and just use it for investment property? And then when you do move here, have something that you can sell and make some money off of, and use that money down toward the next home. I've tried to get them to look at multiple scenarios instead of just looking at, this is what I have. And then, it's a scary thing. From a recession, depression kind of aspect, they lost their butt when it came to the last one. They built a house in 06, and then in 07 and 08 it crashed. And then when they went to move out of that house, they lost on it, because it hadn't recovered, and it had been a decade. And they just wound up losing money on that deal, and the house went into foreclosure. And so I sold it 5 different times, but I didn't have a successful closing. So I'm taking it real personal as to what to give them advice on doing. And, as far as when they should pull the trigger and what to do. My mom's dead set on coming back to Florida. He wants to come to Florida. They like the Gulf Coast. You know, they kind of want to be in the area of Clearwater, but it's difficult
Remember
to
this.
really.
What's one of my most famous sayings when it comes to action and results? Where does it all start? It starts with, remember,
Starts with me.
starts with education. Got to have the right education.
Right.
So we got plenty of resources on the website, man. I would use them. You know, there's dozens of websites. Go into the resource, the tab that actually says resources, click on miscellaneous links, and you'll see at least a dozen websites there. And I would use tax migration. I would use the Marcus Millichap one, because you can get some good market data there. And go to the ones, the government US data. It uses census data. Go there, grab data there, and start with the education and the information, because you have the right education, the right information, you're more likely to take the right action and get the right results. I do believe, I know for a fact we're going to have a correction. I just can't tell you when it's going to happen. It's a mathematical certainty. And some people might say, well, wait till the correction occurs, then go buy. But another saying in real estate is, don't wait and buy and wait. Now that didn't help your stepdad the first time around. He bought and waited and got clobbered. But the one thing I will tell you that's kind of an anomaly is Florida is still growing so fast population wise that I'd say if there's, the last recession, Florida took a huge hit. I mean, it was disastrous. It was like as bad as, Phoenix and Vegas and Southern California. But I mean, look at it now. So the only thing I would say is, I wish I could tell you exactly what to tell your stepdad, but I would say if he waits in Florida, I think people are still going to be coming here in droves for the next generation. That's what I think. I just think.
How old are your folks also?
My mom just turned 71 Sunday, and I guess he's 67 or so.
Ah, good for her. She married younger too.
Yeah, she calls him her boy toy.
I love that. I have one of those. He's my trophy husband. I highly recommend, especially at this age, because we looked at our lives and what we wanted in our lives. And when I start to do the math, I mean, I think I'm going to live till I'm shooting for 99, but it's still not a ton. You know what I mean? Like, I want my life where I want my life. And sometimes you move for life circumstances, and whether the market's up or the market's down is what the market is. It just is.
Yeah. And that's kind of where their head is, even if it's sort of unspoken between them right now. I know that's where their head is because, my mom in the 80s always wanted to move to Florida from Savannah, and always wanted to come to Clearwater. And it was just like that dream, California wasn't realistic. It was so far away. He was in Pennsylvania. They met online. He moved down from Pennsylvania to Atlanta, from Atlanta to Savannah. He moved down to Tampa, took a job. She finally got to Florida. And then, he lost his job and the house went in foreclosure. He couldn't find employment. So he went to Columbia, South Carolina. She hated it. She moved up there, basically forced herself into retirement. And where their headspace is now is like, well, I'm trying to explain to them the difference in buying a house versus owning a house, and what they're going to do in 5 years versus closing, and where they're going to be 10 years from now, and all those different things. But the quality of life for me is what's important to them too. They only buy what they really need. And if they need to downsize, great, but live the life they want, live the lifestyle they want. And, but the money is hugely important. He can afford it right now. He clears the salary plus bonuses. His salary is 75 or so plus. He can afford a rental property right now to own it. He's just very vanilla and scared. I'm like, listen, I could live in the damn thing. I'll live in it and be your tenant, and I'll pay the rent and whatever, and I'm not going to trash it. And, you don't have to worry about a tenant because I'll be there, but he won't pull the trigger on anything.
Well, Rob, I love that you shared that story. And I have to say, like, you were going through the whole thing, and I was going down the same path, was what do they really want? And as you started to share, how she really wanted to get to Clearwater, I mean, I literally was like, chills all up and down my arms without what do they want. And that's their vision, their goal. Like, so have the conversation, give them that space to actually have that same experience. I mean, literally just you talking through that and telling that story and then giving them that space to actually experience that and be like, what are we really trying to do here? Well, it's time. I mean, it's time. They need to, it's time.
Yeah, she feels it very much a deficit from being in South Carolina because her whole life stopped. She lost her friends, she lost her job, she lost, family and me and everything else. And she's there and she lives on the couch and Dr. Phil's her best friend. It's just stupid. So she wants to get back here. And let me ask you guys this question. I'm much more of a risk taker and all across the board than my stepdad is, and that's a whole different conversation. But is it ignorant or not ignorance, right? Not the word. Is it incorrect and is it irresponsible for me to suggest to him? It's not that it's irrelevant what the house costs as far as purchase price. That's not irrelevant, but it's more important to me for him to focus on what his terms are. Can he afford it, like monthly? What's his obligation, like his nut on it, right? And I know he's got to pay it off in time and whatever, but they keep buying a house and thinking, oh, we're going to be here forever. They've moved 5 times in, 12 years, 15 years. So is it incorrect and is it bad information for me to give them advisory wise to say, listen, if you want to spend $350 and you spend $420, okay. But if you can afford it financially, that you can step into that. If it checks all the other boxes, then buy it. Is that bad for me to suggest?
I wouldn't say that, but one thing for sure is tell them this: last year, this time, interest rates were 3%. They're now over 5%.
Right, and that I keep without wanting to rub their nose in it, and without my mom scolding him because she just kind of says whatever. But if they had bought 2 years ago, he'd be in a much better situation.
Yeah, and I feel like when we think about this, and you hit it on the head, you don't want to rub his nose in it. You don't want to make anybody wrong. So it's just inviting them into the conversation to have him self-discover. Well, what if the prices, the interest rates go up, and what if you would have bought last year? What if and having them self-discover in this space. I'm more conservative than my husband, and I've been through rough times before, so I like to have more money in the bank these days. So that doesn't happen again. So then it's like working with his comfort level and what are in like any type of, you're not going to sell him on something that he's not going to buy into. It's just exposing what are the objections here and where is it, can you make him feel, or can he find comfort in what would it take for him to feel comfortable moving forward? So is it money in the bank? Is it so walking through like pros and the cons of like the what is it, the close, I can't remember the closes, but what's the worst case scenario and how likely is that going to happen? And just giving him that space to actually have that conversation and self-discover what's the worst case scenario. What would you do if that were to happen? How likely do you think that's is to happen? So
kind of like that. Yeah, and I like adding to it of how old are you going to be in 5 years if you go to Florida?
Right.
How old are you going to be in 5 years if you don't go to Florida? Where do you want to be during the 5 years? And then to help them self-discover also is there's 4 questions. It's what do you want? And give them time. Like maybe it takes a week to go through that. Like, what do you want? What are you doing to get there? Is the second one. Give them time to process through that one also. Is it working? It never is. We wouldn't be having this conversation, but you don't say that part. Just is it working? That's a fast one. Yes, no. Time to rethink the plan. Those are the 4 questions. It's literally, what do you want? What are you doing to get there? Is it working? Time to rethink the plan.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
The other thing I would do is, it sounds like you might have a high S personality, a stable, solid, responsible, reliable, doesn't really move for yep. Okay. When you have that personality, a really good trick with them is, or a really good technique is probably a better term with that, is who in your life is really, really important to you that bounce ideas off of. Whoever that person is, let's get them involved at the very beginning. Because what happens when you don't is you'll go through the whole process, then all of a sudden they'll get friend or whoever it is involved that they bounce their ideas off of. And then friend idea person will say, you don't want to do that because they've been protecting them their whole life. And then it'll script the whole entire thing. So just get that person, whoever that person is, let's get them involved in the very beginning of this conversation. And let's have them be present for all this also. And the friend is actually the one that's going to convince them to do it. It will not be, for me, because I'm that high D personality, S's are afraid of me and they just run from me and they never do, they just don't. But if I get the other person involved, they'll listen to them.
No, yeah, that's good advice. Yeah, I like that.
Thanks.
That's
But
exactly what I was thinking, Gina. He was an S personality, stable, and they won't do something, even if they're in their best interest, they won't move. Because I had one I talked to Gina about. Remember that client?
He has two sons that are in their 40s, and one of them is he works for Vanguard, the
Oh yeah,
the investment company.
the one's
right?
buying everything.
Yeah. And
Uh-huh.
so, I would think he could lean on him, Mike. I think he would lean on Mike a little bit or a lot for investment advice because that's what his skill set is. That's what he does all day, every day, right?
Mhm.
The issue for advice though with Mike is that Mike is also very S and very safe and very vanilla, and and of course now he's also advising his dad, so it takes more of a caution in his advice. But they don't do any kind of risk. They don't do anything at all. Everything's very, very, very safe. And, you don't want to just kind of have that conversation. Yeah, well, how's that working for you? You don't want to have that kind of a conversation. But
Oh.
yeah, brother, how is it working for you? It isn't. And your 4 questions are perfect because it's not working for you.
It's not.
So
Yeah.
it's been damn time to do something different,
Would it help to show them the difference in buying power with the interest rates changing?
Yeah, that's the conversation I had with him most recently, and he just kind of was at a loss for words with that.
Oh,
For that.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be facts.
No, it's emotion, right? So
Emotions.
it makes us think and emotion makes people act, so I would go with the emotion.
I would
Yeah.
too. And also I'm going to go for the pain and the juggler, but I can't do that. And I'm going to do it all day long anyway, but I can't do that unless I spend a lot of time digging into the pain. Your mom's already. It's digging in a little bit to his, but again, like
Yeah.
Melanie said, I'm going to have him help himself discover. I'm going to use those questions, but give him plenty of time between, because I'm like, what do you want? What's your answer right now? And people are like, oh, and I don't tend to give, I have to force myself to slow down and give them plenty of time to work through that process.
Right. And I agree with staying in the pain too. And sometimes, staying in that pain conversation, what happens if you don't? And what happens if you never get to Florida? Like what happens, how are you going to
kind of a color or a shade of pain too for him is, however I can put this, is my mom, when she talks to him about anything that comes up in their life, if it's, let's call Rob and see what Rob's opinion is. Call Rob and ask Rob. And so when their house is going through foreclosure, before that happened, I helped them get a refi, and I was on the phone with the mortgage company, and I was him. They thought I was him, so I was answering all the questions properly. And because I had 5-star training back in my 20s of working with 5-star chefs and blah blah blah. If it comes to cutting the Christmas turkey or the ham, let's let Rob do it. And so she does that with everything. And so I know for him, just as a man, it's emasculating to him.
Right.
And so he doesn't like having a conversation with me when it comes to finances.
Right.
He should be the hero. He should be providing for mom. He should be, and he does. He's great. And he's wonderful. And I'm so thankful that they're together for the last 20 years and that he provides for her everything she needs. But he doesn't want to have that conversation with me all the time about his finances. One, I'm not a guru and I'm not making $1 million a year. So what the hell good is my advice anyway? Right. And so that's kind of how he sort of makes me feel. But the other thing is he doesn't want to take the advice from me or even hear the advice from me because it's advice from me. Again, my mom's always like, well, let's ask Rob what Rob would do. What will Rob do? And I'm like, Mom, stop doing that to him,
Yeah.
But so that's a whole kind of a thing for me to overcome. But, I want to give them good advice, and I know they're going to be here for a month, and I hope that we're still cordial after that, you know, for them living with me for a month, but
Yeah, that's a long time. Yeah, I hear you. Rob, when you mentioned that he was been a good provider and all of those things, have you told him that?
absolutely, yeah. He has a lot of guilt on him too, because the house did go into foreclosure, and you know, it's, you know, not his fault that that happened. It's just, it is what it was. He didn't ask to get downsized. He didn't ask to get laid off. He didn't ask for the market shift to change. He did, but it happened, and he wasn't able to avoid it. And
Right.
my mom went into retirement unwillingly because they moved to South Carolina, and she just foolishly transferred her job and didn't do it right, didn't get to go back to work. And so everything that happens to them in their day is because of his choices right now, and she's unhappy, and he takes it on the nose every day because of it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Bob, out of curiosity, something that you might, if the conversation goes here, the thing that I think I might ask through that process is, stepdad, do you forgive yourself? I think I might go there, and I think I might stay in the painful place of, I love you and I love how well you've taken care of my mom, and do you forgive yourself? Because none of us hold anything against you. And
Even if that's rhetorical, yeah, that's a good thing to say to him.
I would, because he's been resistant to advice, I probably wouldn't advise, but I would ask a lot of questions, and I would get him to start thinking. And my daughter, that's how, it's the hardest thing on planet Earth, because she will not take advice from me. And all I can do is ask questions, and then I just let it sit, and our brain can't deal with that. We can't deal with an unanswered question in our brain. It will just do this until we start to work through our answers and come up with our answers. So I probably would just really like sit back and just ask a lot of questions. The hard ones and the good ones and the real ones and all those kinds of things.
Appreciate that, ladies. That's good stuff. And thank you, Gary. I'll definitely employ those resources, and, you know, kind of be able to get some data to be able to present that, and then, you know, attack from a few different sides, but, you know, basically help walk him through it, you know, to make an informed decision, more so than he's probably prepared to do right now.
Okay.
Hey, Rob, this is Benetta. Did you say that your stepfather asked you for advice? This is the last time where he actually asked you?
He hasn't asked me for advice specifically on this, but I know that it's been a topic of conversation between him and my mom. He hasn't asked me directly for this, but I know that he knows that I know that they're coming, and that they're going to be here, and that the conversation is going to happen. So maybe it's redundant in his opinion to kind of ask me for, you know, an opinion on this when he's going to be here in a week and ask me anyway. You know what I'm saying? But because I have, you know, an affiliation in real estate, and because, you know, of that, he kind of always bounces things off of the conversation as far as an opinion goes. But he hasn't really contacted me and said, hey, I want your opinion on this. But what he has said is, you know, we're going to be there for a month, and, you know, I'd like to be in X area, and I'm thinking about blah, blah, blah. And I'm just wondering whatever. And he's not really asking a question, but he's just sort of presenting information for me to sort of, you know, to feed me so that I can be prepared for that conversation when I get here. So
can you prepare some things that they could possibly look at when they get there? Some options for him?
yeah, that's what I was saying with Gary. I can look at that information, and then arm myself with that information and give him some samples, and, you know, maybe have some urgency around it too. Things are selling in a week or whatever, but you know, I also think that because he thinks maybe it's 2, if not 2, maybe 3 years away, but that's just up to them. He could, you know, if he wanted to leave this year, he could. But I think because it's 2 or 3 years down the road, he doesn't have any sense of urgency on his own to have to make a decision right now. So why are they even having the conversation about price points and whatever right now? Because 2 years is going to be completely different, you know?
Does he really care about your mom's feelings and know how unhappy she is?
Yeah, that's why, you know, he just assumed be here in 10 years, but she wants to be here last month. So
I would make that part of the pain, that you know, your mom, how much she sacrificed for moving there and giving up all her friends and all that, and then make that part of the pain that she's not happy. And if he wants her to be happy, that might be part of the solution. Suggestion.
Hey guys, I'm gonna let you guys stay on. I have to be on a call with India. We just switched it to WhatsApp. That was what I was doing over here to the side. So if this,
Well,
if you-
I'll close that conversation. I didn't expect that really to happen. I was just saying anecdotally
Okay.
to you, I was going to ask, but I appreciate it, ladies. Thank you very much. If we're going to close out, we can.
you're welcome to stay on. Honestly, I'm gonna blank myself and go to another room and get on a WhatsApp. Because we just picked up 9 more listings. So
Oh, wow. Congrats.
I know, it's crazy. So we got an offer, a bona fide offer on the resort. So they said, if you do that, we'll give you some more. I had no idea, but yeah.
That's
But
nice.
you guys want to stay on and keep going, or you want to go ahead and?
I'm gonna jump off, but I wish you the best.
I do
Well,
too. We really do. We all wish you the best, Rob. It's
Yeah.
gonna be hard.
Yeah,
But I also know
definitely.
you'll be good at it, freezing your stuff in questions and sitting and really getting into the root of what's going on. And that's what's gonna be best for everybody anyway, all the way through, you know?
So, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks everybody for participating and sharing and helping. And Rob, thanks for bringing that one up, because I think a lot of us were that age group where we have, my parents who might have already gone through it. It's not easy, you know, it's tough, but you guys take care of yourselves. God bless you and your families. Have an awesome week. For those of you on the team, we have an agent attraction mastermind on Wednesday night, and I'm going to show you what Gene and I and Andre have come up with as far as a comprehensive strategy for that, using the resources that we have. So I think you're going to like it, and we'll see everybody on next Monday. So,
Bye, everyone.
oh,
Good
and
night.
happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there coming up. That's
And
right.
it's almost Gina's birthday.
I know.
That's
Look
good.
at
And it's Teacher Appreciation Week as well. So if you guys have anybody in your life that you know, show them some love, because they're always underappreciated, you know?
Yeah.
Sure.
True that.
All right, guys.
Bye.
All right.
Take care of
Good
yourselves.
night.
Good night, thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys. Good night.